listening to the Caramel Apples Podcast, the show that brings you a retro vibe, both crunchy and sweet. This week, we're going to be talking about the Love Boat. Love, exciting and new. Come aboard. We're expecting you.
So, Cooper, we've talked about this particular perspective here on our podcast before, but when it comes to retro time travel, what ideal recipe do we need to embark on in order to sweeten the tour? Well, it always helps to have a couple of expert retro caramel apples to host your trek. That does help. Then choose a fun throwback memory from the 70s or 80s. And we have the makings of a great time.
Oh, yeah, you said it, Kennedy. And being able to talk about the Love Boat is a long time coming.
Oh, yes.
I really enjoy our Orchard Retro Treks to be able to go back and revisit so many of our wildly fond memories of yesteryear and have that weekly rush of nostalgia wash over us, as well as you too, our dear listeners. We're so glad you're here with us as well.
That's actually the sweetest part, but being able to share together right along with our dear Orchard archivers as we talk about these fascinating topics. So if you haven't done so yet, take a moment and hit that subscribe button and share our podcast with all your fellow retro buffs. And let's have some caramelicious fun. Okay, so let's get to it.
You tap that button yet? No pressure.
That's right, they're so pushy.
So on topic, The Love Boat is one of those old-fashioned, nostalgic, and memorable TV series from the 70s and 80s. We used to watch this when we were younger, along with our parents, and always enjoyed it. The Love Boat was a wholesome TV series and was truly unique and exciting for that time. Mm-hmm. After all, this show takes place mostly on a luxurious cruise liner. And where it's passengers and crew, they live and they play all nice and romance and adventures.
So true, Cooper. This show worked for the times because although people could and were obviously taking and going on cruises, hence our show, but it really wasn't as common for the layperson or family to just, book one of these and go.
Yeah.
It seemed more for the well-to-do folk, the mover and shaker part of the population, who had arrived where they could just jet set and effortlessly travel wherever and whenever the urge arose. This wasn't the case for most of the common Joe schmoes back then. Yeah. So that's yet another angle or reason why the Love Boat was such a hit back in the day. Because this show made it possible for anyone to go on an exciting cruise and their ports of call without the big bills and hassles of actually having to embark on a cruise.
Yeah, that's right. So folks back then had the good pleasure of being able to live vicariously through their TV screens. The warm, nostalgic offerings of the Love Boat, that would provide.
Yeah.
And as they said right off the bat, come aboard. We're expecting you. And look at that, Kennedy. We're invited.
Thank goodness we were invited. Finally,
yes. So what a warm invitation that is. So what will we find on our journey?
A whole lot of tropical breezes, scenic waters, and of course, fun. So The Love Boat is a romantic comedy drama TV series that aired on the ABC network from 1977 all the way to 1986. Yeah, and then in the late 80s and early 90s, The network added to its lineup for 2 to 3 hour specials for more of these tropical adventures.
You know what? I remember those longer specials, representing the longer voyages, like for 7 days or something.
Yes.
And the cast and crew would do like other places in the world type cruises, which was pretty neat.
It really, really was. The series followed the exploits of the ship's crew and passengers as they sailed from port to port around the world, as you just stated.
Yeah, because again, who in reality back then would be able to accomplish a trip of, a lifetime like this with relative ease.
Right?
There weren't a lot of independently wealthy people back in the day, that would have that money to just burn on something cool like this. So thank you, Love Boat.
Thank you.
All one had to do was grab your favorite snack and tune in.
And tune in we did. So, since this is about luxury cruises that take place on a cruise liner, the Love Boat was set on the luxury passenger cruise ship Miss Pacific Princess.
I totally remember her.
Uh-huh, yeah. And the logo.
Yeah.
With the hair coming past her face.
That was so cool.
Yeah, it was up on the smokestack or whatever. That's not what you call it, but yeah,
I'm there with you.
The boat was very nice and top of the line for its time. But although very nice in its heyday, you can't help but wonder and marvel at the sheer beasts and monstrosities they've got visiting ports of call nowadays. Oh my goodness, the ships they have now are nothing short of huge. Mm-hmm. They're literally floating cities. Mm-hmm. It was the Pacific Princess and the adventures taking place on the Love Boat that pioneered and paved the way for mass appeal of the current cruising industry.
Oh my goodness, yes.
Mm-hmm.
They're humongous.
They are.
As you said, literal floating cities.
Oh, yeah.
And not small cities at that.
No.
It's pretty crazy. And I find it interesting how you and I, before our nuptials to our SOs, how we were rabid travelers and jet setters, as you mentioned a little earlier. But oddly enough, we never found ourselves on a cruise. And to be perfectly honest with you, I'm 100% okay with that.
What up with that?
I would be rather picky on anything I would do, and it wouldn't be to the Caribbean. I'll tell you that right now.
Buzzkill. Coop's a buzzkill.
I am. But although fascinating, it just really doesn't interest me or the hubby hubs much.
Okay.
So we're good. And I guess we'll just stay home and watch the Love Boat. What about you, Kennard?
Let's see. I, too, have yet to go on a cruise. Mm-hmm. Hasn't happened yet, but I'm working on it.
Okay.
It is definitely on my to-do list.
Okay, in what direction? Which seas or river would you find yourself in?
I'd want to stay closer to home, so I'd probably want to do the Atlantic Ocean, maybe go to the islands or something.
Okay.
Yeah, because I might not like it. You get on there, I don't know, like with health issues now, I don't know if even the motion would even agree with me.
That's an angle.
Yeah, so I would definitely want to dip my toes in first. But if that's a big if.
Yes.
Here's my other conundrum. If I can manage to convince the hubby hubs to go on one, there we go. That's kind of my other obstacle. But I do think I'm wearing him down.
Good.
Who knows, though? I mean, it may happen soon enough. I don't know. I think being on a ship that size would be absolutely amazing. I would want to take, as I was just saying, maybe a short-term one to see if I liked it. But, I think they have the 3-4 day ones that they offer in the Caribbean. Mm. So that's definitely on my bucket list. Okay. Here's hoping. It's all post-COVID now. That's another factor, too. I just don't, that's where it kind of started.
Yeah.
Like the boats were kind of Petri dishes for COVID.
Scary. Yeah.
I don't want to get COVID. It might happen soon still, but I don't want it. But getting back to the Love Boat, though, and their crazy adventures.
Okay. So we established that the Love Boat took place on the ship Pacific Princess. And most of the adventures revolved around our favorite star captain, crew, and wildly eccentric guests that would come aboard to entertain us week after week.
Uh-huh.
And even though there were some really relatable scenarios that played out on the boat, some of those were more of a serious nature. But for this primetime show, each and every voyage would easily provide copious amounts of both romantic as well as humorous adventures.
So who provided this rumored humor? That would be our ever-cool captain, crew, and guests. So let's talk about our brilliant and oh-so-familiar captain and crew, shall we?
Oh, yes. This is going to be the most fun.
It sure will. So we have our dear ship's captain, Captain Merrill Steubing, played by actor Gavin MacLeod. Now, I like Captain Steubing. He really was relatable as the captain. The creative execs hit it out of the park casting him, Gavin MacLeod.
Oh, yeah, I agree, Kennedy. Captain Steubing was such a delight. Very professional, kind yet parental, fatherly.
Yeah.
And his presence was refreshing.
Yes, it was.
Now, we also have actor Bernie Koppel, a.k.a. Dr. Adam Bricker, or Doc, as the ship's lady killer doctor.
Okay.
I guess it's all in the eye of the beholder.
Yes.
Then we have Fred Grandy as Burl Gopher Smith, who our lovable Yowman pursuer in the initial 6 seasons, but ended up being promoted to chief pursuer in seasons 7 through 9. And fun fact, did you know that Fred Grandy appeared in every episode throughout the run of the series, but did not appear in the last of the TV movies? Due to him campaigning for the first of his 4 consecutive terms in the U.S. House of Representatives.
Oh, wow. That's a far cry from what we see him playing out on the Love Boat as lovable Gopher.
No, right?
That's a big difference.
So next, no one can forget our cool, charismatic, hip bartender, unofficial therapist, some of the overly trusting troubled guest, actor Ted Lang as Isaac Washington.
Then we have Captain Steubing's daughter, Vicky, as part of the cast played by Jill Whelan. And the other female compadre was the ever-present eye candy and cruise director, Julie McCoy, played by Lauren Tuiz.
Yes. So before we go any further, I have a cool fun fact. Did you know that Jill Whelan, a.k.a. Vicky Steubing, was not a part of the initial cast named when the Love Boat first started?
I did not.
Yeah, no, she actually made a guest appearance in season 2, but then pretty much came on board along with the rest of the crew from seasons 3 through 9. Also in 4 of the specials, which were made for TV movies. It's pretty cool, huh?
Yes, it is cool. Thanks for sharing that. That's one of the things I really like about our research,
Yeah.
You generically think you know something, and then when you tear it apart and deep dive, then you're like, I did not know that.
Yes, my eyes open.
I love that. So it's so much of the time found in the smaller details we often miss while just sitting and watching any given show. So that's pretty cool. As with most retro television shows in later years, the Love Boat would add and lose cast members. But for most of its run, the Fabulous 5 key characters ran the boat like a well-oiled machine. And because of their wonderful chemistry and dedicated contribution to the show, it really worked for the fans. Hence the nostalgia it fosters.
As you said a minute ago or so, there were a couple add-on cast members in the later seasons where they added actor, cover boy, Ted McGinley.
The Kindle.
Right.
He did look like Ted.
He did. In season 7 through 9 as Ace Covington Evans, or Ace.
Okay.
Our ship's photographer, as well as actress Patricia Klaus in seasons 8 through 9 as Judy McCoy, which was Julie's sister, and successor as ship director. Why ever could that be?
Right? Mm-hmm.
Yes. We will definitely touch on that detail here in a bit. So back to the ever reliable actor, Ted McGinley. our ship's photographer. Well, check this out, which gave me a brief chuckle.
Oh, no. What is it?
Fun fact. It was said by an ever-observant person on social media that Ted McGinley was the harbinger of doom. Whose addition to the cast of any show meant that it was about to be canceled.
Oh, no.
Well, no show is perfect.
Ooh, that was a bit harsh. but as you shared that was coming from a very observant fan.
Yes.
Of at least The Love Boat. As well as other projects and shows he was a part of. I remember him, and although I'm sure he did what he could to hold his own, in all fairness, by the time he came on board... yeah, no pun. Oh, very pun. The Love Boat was already on the downslide of its run. So no offense to Ace, he did okay, I guess. But the real cast, of course, was Captain Steubing, Doc, Gopher, Isaac, and Julie, the Fab Five.
I agreed. And the Fabulous Five was probably one of the best, most underrated cast and ensemble in retro TV history. It was so memorable that we are still able to talk about The Love Boat with great fondness. Mm-hmm. And their interactions were organic and as good as you see in any uber-acclaimed show, such as this one. I mean, they had true chemistry and all had an easygoing appeal that really made The Love Boat work.
Yes. The creative execs took their time and really gave good attention to the craft at hand on so many levels, like writing, casting process, etc. So unlike the slop, basically, Hollywood pumps out on the regular these days. Yeah, let's tell them how we really feel. I mean, we complain and discuss this often on our retro tracks. It's literally like an assembly line of slop. And truly a money grab. Yeah. It's so bad that it really makes you long for the entertainment offerings of yesteryear. We were just talking about that not too long ago, so... I mean, that's just, it fosters that type of feeling.
It really does.
Like, come on now, Hollywood.
We must send out the memo stat.
Through our podcast. There we go.
So it's really no shock to learn that the Love Boat sailed on the high seas for 9 whole seasons. Mm. It reached the height of its TV power due to a key name that was behind so many successful retro TV hits during that time. And we are always talking about, the creative execs of things in a more general collective sense. But here we're going to talk about one of the key reasons the Love Boat's success, and that was due to the media mogul, Mr. Aaron Spelling.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Does that name ring a bell there, Kennedy?
Boy, does it ever. Yeah, this was a staple name in retro stuff. Executive producer Aaron Spelling was not only responsible for being the genius mastermind behind the Love Boat's success, but he also scored huge hits on the small screen, including Starsky and Hutch.
Yes.
The Mod Squad, and Charlie's Angels, among other shows at that time. And we actually did an episode on the Charlie's Angels. So if you want to check that out, you're in the right spot. You're right here, the Retro Orchard, give us a listen. I think you'll enjoy that. It's one of his better offerings back then. So back to Love Boat. I mean, come on, Coop. Aaron Spelling shows alone were taking up more than a quarter of ABC Network's primetime screen time by the turn of the decade.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was said that he had produced more hours of captivating television offerings than anyone else.
That's mind-blowing.
It is. So there's that.
Yeah.
That's no mere accident. I mean, if you got it, you got it.
Yeah.
And it's undeniable, as we see here this week, deep diving into the highlights of the Love Boat.
Yeah, you know what? This may be a fun fact many of us may be already aware of. But fun fact, did you know that executive producer Aaron Spelling's actual real-life daughter is fellow Gen Xer Tori Spelling? Yeah, I only brought that up because of those two factors, she being his daughter and that she's a fellow Gen Xer. Like what you hear so far? Make sure you never miss a show by clicking the subscribe button now. This podcast is made possible by listeners like you. Thank you for your support. Now, back to the show.
Oh, yeah. We cannot forget about any of our fellow Gen Xers now, can we?
No.
Tori's dad is legendary, and as already discussed, has this brilliant thumbprint on just about everything back in the day. For instance, for several years, the Love Boat was teamed up with yet another brainchild offering of Aaron Spellings, which was Stablemate Fantasy Island.
Oh, yeah. I remember Fantasy Island well with Tattoo.
Yeah, that was a vivid childhood memory.
Yes.
It's like, he's short like us.
and our data, he'll still do that every now and then, reciting what he would say.
He would. Our parents loved some of their entertainment, didn't they?
Yes, they did.
Well, the Love Boat coupled with Fantasy Island together formed a 2-hour escapist block on Saturday nights when loyal viewers would escape reality for a bit and go on a tropical cruise and then go exploring on an exotic, enigmatic island.
Yeah. With the Love Boat, viewers could easily experience some of the better aspects, perks of a cruise, as we stated earlier, without the drawbacks.
Right.
And what was readily portrayed on most episodes was intoxicating blue waters, sun-drenched scenes, and island-esque ports of call. Then we'd 180 and enjoy activities and adventures the evening would bring about.
Mm-hmm.
And do you want to sit at that captain's table? Yes, please. Every night, crisp and clear, and maybe a full moon hanging in the sky, bouncing off the water and lighting up the ship's wake.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Kennedy's like, book me now.
Still working on that.
Yes, they really did nail the romance, though. They did.
I agree. They did. It drew the viewers in.
Mm-hmm.
And how cool was it that each week we could all enjoy the surf, sun, and fun and still be back home within a single hour or two, depending on whether it was one of those 2-hour made-for-TV specials they do every now and then, you mentioned, Coop. And the best part that is it didn't cost a cent.
Right.
Other than having cable TV, maybe. An electricity bill.
Pennies compared to what the cruise would cost. So that is definitely the way to cruise.
Yes. Coop's on board, her hubby. The retro TV.
So now let's get into the actual setup format of the show.
Okay.
So the Love Boat usually involved 3 storylines, some of which included guest stars who were playing themselves or a closely connected rendition of said characters, which I thought was pretty neat. The 3 main storylines that drove the episode of the adventures of the guests that came aboard the Pacific Princess. And in each scenario, by the time the entertainment ensued, it was time for the show to end. And there was almost always predictably neatly packaged resolutions at the end. But Kennedy, that was what was fun about it.
Yes, it was. Yeah.
And we, the audience, knew everything was going on would be okay.
Yes, except for, of course, our beloved crew. They had to return each and every week. So, of course, none of their romances could work out.
They had to be professional.
Right? But Coop, it really was amazing at how many stars set sail on the Love Boat. There really was an eclectic array of thespians from both the TV and film realms. Just about everyone in Hollywood at that time guest starred on the show.
How impressive. And two, there were, soap stars, famous musicians, even well-known actors like game show hosts and other celebrity cameos would show up on these cruises. Now, all I know is that the Princess Cruise Lines definitely got a lot of valuable promos and wild exposure from this retro series.
Mad exposure.
It wasn't until you get older you realize that was an actual cruise line. I mean,
yeah,
that was
hour-long entertainment or advertisement. Excuse me.
Yes. That would be lost on us children. This is just TV. So, fun fact: there were many well-known popular stars on the show. But do you know who was noted to have the most appearances on the Love Boat? It was said that it was actress Marin Ross of Happy Days fame with 14 guest appearances.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So next was Charo Kichi with 10 appearances, as well as Florence Henderson from the Brady Bunch.
Oh, yeah. You cannot not have a Brady Buncher on there.
And the last two went in for a tie.
Okay. The Love Boat was not in the first comedy series to utilize the guest star cast anthology format. There were a couple of other retro TV offerings back then that showcased this similar format and had great success. The aforementioned Fantasy Island had that similar style. But back to the Love Boat, some episodes were a bit different, but not by much. And although a lot of fun to watch, the format for each show was painfully similar. Especially like when you take a moment and watch them now. Yeah,
like the old adage that if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, I guess. In the first few moments, we meet the passengers. So again, there were 3 stories that we followed throughout the voyage. By the second commercial break, some sort of trouble or problem arises in which each of the 3 tales, and we see the folks involved, somehow work through their issues. These were often comedy-based with romantic entanglements being a common theme. By the time the last commercial came and went, everyone involved in that week's adventures disembarked the cruise with a smile, and our ever-happy Fabulous 5 Pacific Princess crewmates have a clever line or two for the passengers to share in order to close the show.
Souvenirs? How nice.
How cheap. Just words of smiles and happiness? Where's my chocolates? Where's my little courtesy wine bottle?
Yes, my life just fell apart on this boat.
Dark meat gopher.
And you just mentioned how that was, a familiar hangout showcased quite a bit at both the start and ending of each episode. And that was in the lobby where all of the guest stars made their grand entrances and amorous disembarking exits. But get this, according to actual regular cruise goers that have been on and sailed the Pacific Princess, fun fact, the lobby of the real Pacific Princess, it is said that, by the way, looked nearly the same.
Oh.
But was in the center of the ship and had no such entrance doors.
Oh, that must have been from somebody that really was on it.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So just from that, we can see that there were major tweaks made here and there in order to enhance and move, the story along in a most entertaining fashion.
That's cool.
And fun fact, there were 5 different areas for decks on the Pacific Princess they regularly referenced. And do you remember these?
Well, if you're looking for specific names, then you'll have to go ahead and share because I got nothing on that.
Come on!
I know, buzzkill. I don't know if the no cruise.
Okay. Then these areas decks, they were the Aloha, Fiesta, Lido, Riviera decks
Okay.
that were mentioned so often on the show that older loyal fans no doubt had these names emblazoned in their memories just throughout the sheer repetition of hearing them.
Oh.
And of course, that fifth memorable area on the ship was the infamous Crystal Pool, which many managed to make an appearance in just about every episode.
That's cool, Cooper. Nice fun fact you just shared there. Oh, that sounds lovely. The crystal pool. Oh, especially in the dead of winter. Not only do we get to go back and revisit fond nostalgia on any given throwback memory, but we learn a thing or two as well. Win-win. Mm-hmm. Now, I want to make a quick mention of something they added to the Love Boat, as well as to a lot of other shows, oddly enough, back during that era. And that was the laugh track.
Oh, my yes, the laugh track. We talk about them a time or two before here on our podcast because they were just a staple.
That was a thing back then.
It was.
The laugh track is what made the Love Boat so distinctive in its few of its 1-hour offerings. In retrospect, though, it was the laugh tracks that gave the show its quirky but warm appeal, and not gonna lie, too. The laugh track-induced episodes are much more watchable and entertaining than some of those longer 2-hour episodes without the laugh tracks.
Yeah.
So the addition of such just really added to the richness and nostalgia of that.
Oh, I agree, Kennard. And laugh tracks were highly appropriate, too. Being that the Love Boat storylines were too, as previously mentioned, often comedy-based with light and airy romantic themes that kept the viewers engaged.
Well, one more key element to mention concerning the Love Boat.
Yeah, last but certainly not least.
That's right, far from it. Loved the theme song for the Love Boat.
Yes.
And it fit the adventures to come as we tuned in. Yeah. One of the better intro songs for this retro gem.
That's correct. The theme song entitled Love Will Conquer All was composed by John Mandel, Charles Fox, and Paul Williams, and initially sung by Jack Jones. So each season was sung by Jack Jones, all except for the final season, where it was beautifully sung by Dionne Warwick.
Oh, I remember that, yes.
Oh, fun fact. The theme song became a top 40s hit here in the States in 1986. Ha-ha! Way to go, Dionne! And Jack Jones, too.
That's right, you can't leave him out. He started the whole game.
Right?
That's simply crazy. The show had that disco-y, 70s loungy cheese factor number 9 going on. But as you stated, the Love Boat is kind of campy, cheesy show, so it works.
Yes.
It's undeniable that all these combined components work together. The Love Boat became so popular that it's rumored that many more people that had the means to do so boarded cruises in real life. Of course, we'd expect as much. It was a nice touch and detail Aaron Spelling added to his show, where he added copious amounts of eye candy. This was a theme for Aaron Spelling. Like, you can see it in, like, probably the Mod Squad and Charlie's Angels or whatever. But, he even with the males in there, they'd have the muscles and testosterone for the ladies and sugar, sweet, and everything nice for the hot-blooded, sun-kissed dudes. I don't know. This was back then.
Cheese factor not in short supply. And the sheer glamorization of the ship's crew and passengers sailing from port to port around the world no doubt helped the folks give in to the urge and book actual trips looking to emulate that, what they may have seen on the Love Boat.
I think you're right.
It like you said earlier, it's advertisements.
Ding, ding, ding. We're on to something here.
And some of their most infamous and familiar ports of call were Mexican destinations like Mazatlan, Puerto Vallarta, and Acapulco.
Yes.
For a 3-day cruise, then back to Los Angeles.
Coop, that is one thing I do vividly remember. Like, maybe we weren't even halfway really watching the show.
Yes.
But they go on these cruises and the guests are, it would just be all go by you. But they'd arrive at Acapulco.
Yes.
Or they'd be announcing, we're going to go to Acapulco. That word was etched into my Acapulco.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that was always one of the prizes you would want to win at the end of Price is Right, too.
Acapulco.
I'm sure it's fabulous.
Now I don't hear anybody really talk about going to it. It's more like Cabo and stuff.
Yes.
Or just raw Mexico, Tijuana or something. I don't know.
They had their heyday, I guess.
Oh gosh, this was fun. So we're about close to wrapping up this wonderful throwback discussion this week. It's sure been a lot of fun, hasn't it?
Yes, it has. And it's always a good time revisiting notable retro offerings on our Orchard treks.
It sure is. We so remember watching ABC Saturday nights.
Yes, and as we've hinted at here and there all throughout our episode this week, but the Love Boat became so popular that the creative execs eventually started doing 2-hour-long shows, made-for-TV type movie episodes, for what seemed like every week in its later season.
You're right. So with these 2-hour-long specials came longer cruises and a vast array of various worldwide ports of call offerings like Australia, China, Greece, France, Italy, and Japan.
Yeah.
They go all over the world. You name it, the Pacific Princess went there. Truth be told, much of the show's action stayed on the ship, but that was A-okay with us.
Well, on a somber note, I have another fun fact to share.
Okay.
Fun fact, did you know that in the autumn of 2002, the ship actually used for the show filming was retired from the Princess Fleet after 27 years of service?
No.
Yeah. The one true Love Boat was no more.
No.
But she did have a good run, didn't she?
I
You
guess.
know? A lot of great memories there, and she's the most famous. I mean, so it's time for her to rest.
I guess. But something else I remember vaguely, because like news reports now isn't quite as crazy. I think it's more sensational now, like everybody's business in the street. But remember Julie was on the show,
Yes.
and then she wasn't.
Yes.
What happened to Julie?
Where did Julie go? Yes.
Because you mentioned earlier that they had a replacement for her. Was it Patricia Klaus, actress Patricia Klaus, that took her place as her sister?
Yeah.
So now we have a Judy McCoy in later seasons. But what happened to Julie? So we know, and it just, of course, with our kid minds, it's like, you don't grasp the concept, but it is rumored that she had some personal struggles.
Yeah.
And that was with 80s illegal candy.
Yeah.
So we're not going to totally put her on blast because I think she's probably fine now. She's still alive. But yeah, it affected so much of her involvement with the Love Boat and cast and crew and all that. They had to let her go. So, it overcame her for that time. And they had to keep, Love Boat was going fine, so they had to find a replacement. But she actually had some personal struggles in that area.
That's too bad. I mean, it happens to a lot of people. I mean, she's certainly, she's in a class with a lot of people. So it's not.
And we recognized her. Yeah. She was Julie. She was the cruise director. She needed to be on the show. So, when she left, it was kind of a downer.
Yes.
So, but anyway, hopefully she's doing well in current times.
Absolutely.
Yeah, on all fronts. Cooper, remember the title sequence in the beginning intro to The Love Boat?
Yes.
It had that brilliant, cheesy 70s lounge song. The opening sequence started out with a long shot of the cruise ship before the camera slowly zoomed into its bridge area. Then next up, there was follow-up posing shots of our star crew members at different spots on the ship's set. Then the long shot footage of the ship was used for the credits of the celebrity guest stars. Now, there have been different versions on how the credits, Love Boat graphics, and all that logo displayed out on the first season. It's always kind of very raw and primitive in the first, the early seasons or something.
And they start tweaking.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thankfully. But only the guest stars' names appeared on screen while the series logo, which at that time was a radar compass-style circle with 4 hearts wrapped around them, would pan vertically downward on the screen. I remember this very well.
Yes, and as you said, there were multiple variations of this as the seasons ticked by. But by the final season, the compass was replaced by a blue crescent wave, and long shots of the ship were replaced by a montage of the various locations traveled throughout the series. And in the center of the wave graphic, the guest stars were shown posing for the camera, wearing their formal attire against different colored backgrounds.
Yep.
And lastly, following the guest stars, cast regulars were revealed with a weighing anchor graphic wipe.
Mm-hmm.
And this is crazy nostalgic because I can see it now.
Yeah. Like those intros and at the end, that was vibe.
Yeah.
They all might be smiling all happy and everything, you going on vacation together. So.
This is time to be happy.
The love boat! Making another run.
Oh, nice. I'd have to say you would be the next person they would have on for doing their song there, Kennard.
They'll say, Jack Jones, Dion, come back!
Come back!
Please come back! I'll take the paycheck, sure.
Yeah, that's a no-brainer there. Plus, you get the cruise, maybe. So
there you go, win-win.
Yeah, can I sing it on the ship?
Thank you, Coop. Tell them to get the memo.
I'll work on it. So what more can we say about the Love Boat? Our discussion, as always, was most informative and a lot of fun to be had this week in the Retro Orchard.
Oh, truly, Cooper.
And even though the Love Boat has been, off the air for more than 36 years, it remains one of the most lovable television series of all time.
Agreed.
So much so that it continues to be shown in syndication worldwide and is available on streaming services, several popular platforms, enabling newer generations to enjoy its timeless retro appeal. So again, CU Orchard Archivers, what did you like and remember about the Love Boat? Did watching the Love Boat make you want to go on a cruise back when? And if you did go on a cruise, what are some of your fondest, coolest crazy cruise experiences? Please share. We'd love to hear your adventures and your thoughts on the Love Boat this week.
Yes, and then we can live vicariously through your adventures. Send us back. I second that emotion, Cooper. For those who do the Love Boat, it remains alive in our memories and won't easily be forgotten. Welcome aboard, it's love.
Know what you heard on this week's episode? Well, the answer is simple. To tune into future treks into the Orchard Archives, meet up with us here next week. Same time, same place at the sweet spot. And it would mean the world to us if you could leave us a shining review and feedback. Spreading the word really is the best way to grow our podcast and explore more iconic memories. Thank you.